Called us. And we're going to put this on the screen because this is heavy stuff. A biased organization relentlessly promoting an ideological agenda under the rubric of being a news organization.
Rubric.
In David Crote's article, Political Influence on Media, he states, Democratic societies, on the other hand, pride themselves on protecting freedom of the press and freedom of expression. Such societies are usually characterized by a more diverse mix of public and privately owned media outlets, offering a variety of arts, news, information, and entertainment. Crote's quote is a fantastic description of media coverage of politics in the U.S. today. Freedom of the press allows news networks to skew the facts so images and stories are consistent with their points of views. These subjective points of views are what would be known as media biases. On one hand, there can be a left-wing, liberal bias, which would include news sources such as the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN. On the other hand, there could be a right-wing, conservative bias. One situation in particular where we can see a lot of bias is during presidential elections. During the presidential elections, the news dictates which topics voters should be concerned about by spotlighting certain issues. By focusing on these issues, they can make one candidate look stronger based on the policies that are popularly accepted. For example, during the 2012 presidential elections, Obama's speeches were given 5 times less airtime than Romney's during Fox News coverage. This statistic is significant because along with CNN, Fox News is in the top 2 sources for political news and information. Fox News is one of the most dominant news stations on television today, but they are often accused of improperly informing the public. They are known to skew their information with a right-wing agenda. Fox News is believed to have a very conservative approach to the information they broadcast, and they can sometimes unfairly present it to favor the Republican Party and demean the Democratic Party and other political parties. An example of this is a quote from the popular Fox News broadcaster Bill O'Reilly. He states, "Coming next, drug-addicted pregnant women no longer have anything to fear from the authorities thanks to the Supreme Court. Both sides on this in a moment." The slogan for Fox News is fair and balanced. However, the right-wing approach to informing the public is anything but and prevents viewers from being presented with objective views on our country's political process. This sort of bias is described in Noam Chomsky's documentary, Manufacturing Consent, by describing the concept of hegemony is when a ruling or elite class dominates at the level of ideas, thus undermining any consciousness of change. In the case of Fox News, this ruling class of ideas would be the ideas of right-wing politicians and consultants brought in to voice their opinions on political events. Fox News is not the only major political news network that presents their information in a biased fashion. The cable news network, also known as CNN, follows a similarly biased approach, but in the opposite direction. Again, we see Chesmonsky's example of hegemony in the media, only this time left-wing ideas dominate media coverage. In addition, their interview questions also favor the Democratic Party. For example, CNN reporter Dan Lothian's interview with Barack Obama concerning torture at the APEC summit in Honolulu shows the Democratic favorites in his questioning. His words, in reference to the GOP, are common forms of bias seen in the news regularly. Seeing as how CNN is where 20% of our political media comes from, bias like these can have a huge impact.
Well, when I did turn on Fox, they definitely focused more on Romney and put Obama down more negative towards Obama, I guess you'd say. CNN, they definitely looked at Obama's stats the entire time, focused on where Obama was winning, and if he was close to winning, they focused directly on that. They never really talked about.
With the advances of technology, an unbiased message given through the media is unrealistic to expect. There is no such thing as an objective point of view, and there will always be biases in terms of context through which communication is spread. Besides the effects different types of media use to convey a message has, there are also effects from historical, economic, and social perspectives. With different views being depicted in the news so often, it is important to know how to detect bias. It is also important for people to see bias in media in order to uncover the true message of the information. Not only is it important for people to see bias in the media, but it is equally important to question the bias and to make sure that the information we are receiving is as objective and nonpartisan as it can be.